Hello, and welcome to the 2022 Outlook for Roadshows webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started here. My name is Sebastian, by the way. I'm over here with Brightspot Marketing, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce our two speakers here. We have Mike May, President of Brightspot Incentives and Events, and we also have Amy, Program Manager, also at Brightspot Incentives and Events.
Hello, welcome everybody. Sebastian, maybe as a quick plug, I was the past chairman of the Incentive Research Foundation, which if people don't follow the IRF, I suggest they subscribe at theirf.org. And every month they'll get a free email of some of the best research on incentives and motivational meetings. And Amy, I'm sure many people on our call know what MPI is, but what is MPI?
Yeah, so I'm Amy. Welcome, everyone. I'm the VP of Leadership for the MPI DFW chapter. We are one of the largest chapters of MPI. It is an international organization focused on networking and the event industry. So been a member for several years and first year on the board. It's been great.
Good. Well, we appreciate you serving our industry. Sebastian, one of the things we like to say here at Brightspot is we encourage our people to be good corporate citizens of this space that we serve in.
Absolutely. We'll go ahead and move on. And we just wanted to give everybody a heads up of what's happened before. So we just recently, last week, same day, we had a 2022 Outlook for Incentive Travel webinar. You can go ahead and check that out at the bit.ly link below, or afterwards, we'll send out this slideshow as a PDF, and you can click this picture, and it'll bring you to the same link as well, too. We also have upcoming in 2022 in January, a to-dos webinar, which will be announced very soon.
Yeah, that's always one of our most popular webinar series. We try to make it actionable on what we think our clients and friends in the industry should be doing with their events and incentives. So stay tuned for email coming out in January about that.
Absolutely. And we do want to set a reminder for everyone to go ahead and please send in your questions. We have the little Q&A button on the very bottom here. So select the Q&A button and then type in your questions. And if you do so, you'll enter into a drawing for a $50 gift card, compliments of Brightspot. So give us your best questions. The winner will be selected after the webinar is completed. And I'll go ahead and let Mike take it away.
Oh, wonderful. So we're going to start with definitions because while we've used the term roadshows here, internally, we've compiled a list of probably as many as 10 different names that roadshows could fall under. We use the term roadshows for sort of the generic umbrella term, but underneath that, we have a whole lot of specific terms like local marketing events and channel marketing events. Let's see, Sebastian, do you have that list? Yeah, so there we go. So Amy, I'm curious, since you're the one that actually is out there on the front lines doing this, of this long list of things, what do you see and hear from your clients most often?
Yeah, so I'll give you a little background on me real quick, y'all. I joined Brightspot here back in August, booking road shows. My background is on the supplier side, selling unique venues, a concert promotion company. And so I've seen lots of different event spaces and hosted a lot of different clients. Specifically now for Brightspot, what I do when I explain it to someone and they're not quite sure what that means, I would say I book domestic party or book domestic events for tech clients, and their objectives tend to be to gather groups of people together and do specialized meetings with an informational piece, and then also more of an incentive entertainment piece. So they call these, everybody's got a different objective, but for my clients, that could mean field marketing events, multi-city events, hospitality events, special events. That's a pretty broad one. Lead generation events for those people in that sales world, partner marketing events, product marketing events, product launches, things where they're trying to inform people of a new platform that they might be pitching. And lunch and learns also would be a good way to describe them. So, really kind of based around your objective, what you're trying to get your consumer to join for. Those are some things we've referred to our events as.
Yeah, I think the adjective at the beginning almost is based on what department the individual works on. Because we have some clients that are in field marketing. We worked with product marketing managers who've wanted to do a product launch. So they call them product marketing or some lead gen. One that I guess Lunch and Learns is the closest. We also see many of them be training events. So we've done some series that I thought was pretty neat, where in the morning, maybe there's a training event, and then in the afternoon or evening, there is a customer focused event. So taking advantage of the experts that may be in market to do two things at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see. Let's go forward. And while we said this is going to be about 2022 outlook, we thought it'd be good to just very briefly look back at 2021. And what I'm calling this section is tipping points, because throughout 2021, we saw a series of tipping points. And in this book by best-selling author Malcolm Gladwell, he defines a turning point as the magic moment when an idea, trend, or social behavior crosses a threshold, tips, and spreads like wildfire. And what catches my attention there is the phrase social behavior, because as we've seen social behavior of consumers switch, we're seeing that that's leading to a change in corporate marketing. So over the course of this year, especially in the last half of last year, we saw that maybe I should say, while the first half of the year, it looked like this, that the COVID virus sunk all the events. In the second half of the year, it swung the other direction, where approximately 60% of events have begun to operate compared to 2019 levels. I've seen a couple of industry stats that quote that number, and that feels very close to what we're seeing within our business. So about a 60% rebound. I think next year that'll be a 90% rebound. And primarily the reason that it's changing is what Malcolm Gladwell called social behavior. So we're seeing a rebound in consumer activities of what they're comfortable with. And Amy, I'm curious, have you been to a restaurant in the last 6 months?
Sure have. Yep.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah.
What about?
I just want to remind everybody also we're in Dallas, Texas. So
yes, we're a very open market. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. What about a stadium sporting event? That's a little different. Have you been to those personally?
Yeah, I've been to some arena sporting events, some Dallas Stars games, Dallas Mavs games. Full cap, selling, all the tickets, and in a suite situation and in a regular reserve seat section.
Now, what about concerts and jumping up and down? And you've been to those?
Yep, singing out loud, both in a club and theater setting. Standing room only GA, small clubs, up to stadium shows for the Stones in a couple markets, indoor and outdoor.
So, I think that drives the point that we're seeing, which is as consumers are comfortable going out to these events, those same consumers are open to attending a corporate marketing event. So, that's really what's driving this shift that we're seeing. So with that, maybe now we'll transition into our outlook for the next year. And let's see, our first tip, or our first trend that we see, and it's a bit actionable, is to start now, start small, and start strategically, because it takes a little bit of time to regain momentum in your marketing. So, Amy, what does that mean to you now, to start now, small, and strategically?
Yeah, so I would say when I think start now, I'd say now being, starting for 2022, start getting your ideas together. When we come back in January, that first week, people will be hitting the ground running. I think they'll have a positive outlook with it being a new year, new energy. I think it's good to take advantage of that. You probably won't likely be on the same scale that you were back in 2019. So it might be good to start small. Now, whether small means to you small headcount, smaller venues, smaller groups, that's kind of up to you to decide. But, just to get back in the swing of things, get people comfortable with coming back. And then I think the last one is very important strategically. Look at your markets and look at what the restrictions are in states. And I know they change all the time, but I'm, booking in states like Texas, Arizona, Florida, Tennessee, areas that have less restrictions, which also then means that the people in those markets might be more willing to go out and attend your events as well. So starting small in those open markets is a good idea. There's some markets, it doesn't matter if it's indoor or outdoor. I was going to give some examples. Lumen Field in Seattle, Highmark Stadium in Buffalo, they're still requiring proof of vaccinations in those high density markets, for large popular events. The Falcons are requiring masks indoors at their stadium. California is still limiting restaurant group sizes, proof of vaccination at the Chase Center with the Golden State Warriors. So I think it's important to, once you look at your market, to make sure you do some investigating in some of those larger venues, and that'll be a big tell on what you think you can pull off in 22.
I think that's a great point, Amy, because we work with clients from coast to coast and north to south. And while we're based in Dallas, as you said, in a very pro-business state with less restrictions, in general, we're seeing that up through the central part of the U.S. and across the Sun Belt, all the way, that those markets and clients in those markets are more open to doing events. But people, if the decision maker or the audience invitees are based in California or the Northeast, they've been a little slower to bounce back. So I think that's a great starting point here.
Yeah.
Let's see, the next point we had, or the next outlook we see, is that provide for more elbow space in 22. And that just relates to what degree consumers are comfortable getting back out in these events. So Amy, what are you seeing?
Yeah. So when you're booking, I would say knowing regionally what people are comfortable with when you're thinking about their peace of mind, when you ask them to RSVP and you're presenting them with the venue that you choose, giving them know before you go type information, like what the setting is going to be, if you're going to rent a private space, if it's going to be maybe add a picture, let them know what the restaurant restrictions are, or just giving them as much information as you can, I think helps ease their mind and answer some questions that they might have. Should I go? Am I comfortable? Have I been to this neighborhood before? Kind of what's going on. I'd encourage you to pay that little bit extra for the private room space. When I walk into a space, I like to be able to move around the room comfortably and have the environment that I choose versus just being forced into a crowded restaurant and just having tables somewhere off to the side. So I think it's worth the money to rent that private space. And I've also seen a lot of success with patio spaces. I know it's winter, but a lot of patios, Topgolf, Bar Louie's, places have heaters outside and they want to utilize that space. So ask those questions. They might have, the zip walls to keep the wind out. And then I'd also recommend, I asked a good question one time, if those patios have outdoor entrances so that your guests don't have to walk through the dining space, they can just join you directly from outside into your patio area. I thought that was a pretty good tip too. And then when it comes to multi-venue shows or events, I would say walkable is helpful too. I remember the first time I got in an Uber or a transportation after after coming back out of the quarantine period, it was kind of unknown. And so I'd like to be able to move freely how I choose from one space to another. And also a good tip would be if you're going to somewhere like a baseball game and your stadium or concert space is within a large venue, you might be able to contact that venue and ask them for a space within their venue so that you can just have one meeting place. Everybody can meet there and then transition directly to the event. I know Oracle Park in San Francisco has this incredible Bank of America meeting room, private room. You check in, you can have your meeting there, and then they walk you directly. We rented a suite, walk you directly to your suite. It was ease of knowledge, ease of use. That was a really great situation for our clients. And then back to that Uber thing, when you're booking transportation, you really need to think about if you are moving people from one place to another, you might end up with more buses or vans than you used to book because you can't cram 35 people in a 30-person van anymore. Some markets you can, some you can't. So I would think about that too if you're moving people from place to place.
Yeah, that's great. While we are recovering, we think all of 2022 will be a little bit of a transition year for our consumer mindset. So how close we feel we can be to one another. So that's great. Let's see, the third outlook that we see is really about personalization and empowering people to make their own autonomous choices of what they want to do, what they're personally comfortable with. Because again, I think we went through 18 months where we had some of our personal freedom and our personal choices taken away. So now we want to be empowered with, even in corporate events, to be able to make certain decisions. So Amy, what do you see?
Yeah, I think that people have taken back their right to choose how they spend their time. And so they're really considering more about it before they commit to coming to it. And they'll probably be getting a lot of invites from a lot of different places. So you want to make sure that yours presents the most appealing information and as much information as you can give them. So when I think about a more relaxed environment, I'm thinking, like I mentioned in the previous slide, more space to move around a room, maybe a mix of cocktail and rounds, or all cocktails, allowing people to pick where they stand in the room, move about it more freely. In a come and go type of format, maybe where you don't have all of the people in the room at the same time. If you do a 3-hour window at a happy hour where they can come and go comfortably at their leisure, that might be a good idea too. And then shorter presentations, pretty straightforward, just not making people sit in the same space for an extended period of time, and a flexible schedule. Kind of goes back to that come and go format, giving them options. And then when I'm booking here, I'm thinking a lot about unique spaces now versus traditional just restaurants or things like that. So I've actually found a lot of success in booking breweries and distilleries, maybe where I found in one market that the brewery actually wasn't open on the day that I wanted to book it. So they opened for me, and I was able to have just our group in that really cool space with a food truck and a kind of a custom fun experience close by a stadium. And that really worked out nicely. And so I would try to think more non-traditional and unique spaces too, that might not be busy on the days you're looking for them for. And then think about when you're serving buffet food versus small plate presentations, foods that don't do well on a buffet. I wouldn't serve wings anymore because people have to use their hands to eat them. I would serve, something single bite, grab and go. Those are things you have to consider now. And then going back to, buffets and head counts and the people that come, I think that with knowing your deadlines for a head count and setting your RSVPs out ahead of time is important. I've found, in the last couple of months that restaurants and venues and stuff have been a lot more flexible with being understanding if you need to push a date back. So I've seen a lot of them and worked with a lot of them that have been super helpful when I say, hey, we didn't get the RSVPs that we expected. Can we please, pick it up and move it back? And they were willing to. So we've also asked for other ways to meet our F&B minimums. If it's not, if we have to pay $2,500 regardless of how many people show up and we can't meet that with the buffet, then try to get creative and see if they can put together to-go gifts. Or if you're going to a brewery, maybe they sell swag and t-shirts, and maybe you could use those items from their gift shop to meet your minimum and send everybody home with a to-go bag, or do a dessert station and add on some additional like candy bags to go or something. Let them build something to take with them. If you're not able to meet that head count or move it, then get creative with the people that do come and take care of them.
Amy, I think those are really good points, because I know it feels like we're seeing now attendance fall in a range that is 75% to 90% of what it was before.
Yeah.
So, keeping that budget flexibility in mind is important, because there's still that 10 or 20% that isn't 100% comfortable attending yet, or, they're caring for elderly parents or something of that
Sure.
like. All right, well, let's see. Our next trend or outlook that we see is one that I really wish we could get the message to the CEOs and the C-suite, because I think many people think we are still in a phase where so much is shut down that it's a buyer's market, and it'll be easy to find things, easy to arrange it on short notice. But we're starting to see where the demand for events is exceeding the available supply. And that's due to something that we've been calling compression. After having 15 months of events get delayed, canceled, postponed, it's like a big wave that's coming and falling into the next 6 months of 2022. So, Amy, what would you say about that?
Yeah, I definitely think that things, in markets are coming back quickly. And like I mentioned earlier, your attendees might be receiving multiple invitations for things. And if they're comfortable, they might go to all things they're invited to. But if they're not comfortable, they might only go to a couple things to, get their feet wet again. So I know that lots of markets are back up to pre-pandemic numbers. I saw an article that the Florida CVB reported that Florida tourism surpassed their pre-pandemic travel numbers in Q3. So I know people are out there doing it and they're moving around. So I think that I've found to use cautious optimism when booking. Bookings have taken me probably double the time when I'm sourcing venues to find a venue that is willing to host a group, and B, to get in contact with the person that I need to talk to, because a lot of the restaurants or smaller, establishments might not have their coordinators anymore. They might not have extra help. It might be hard to get a hold of somebody or get them to return your call. Some tips, things we found on our team is if you call or if you submit your RFP and you don't hear anything back and you call and the events person still isn't there, I would ask to talk to a floor manager or a general manager. And call back during maybe like a 4:00 time, but right before dinner rush, after lunch, when you might be able to catch those people between tasks. And, they're going to be busy because they're back open again. And I know hourly workers are hard, a little bit more difficult to come by, but those might be good people to reach out to. And they'll probably likely be at your event too. So they've seen operations of these events and they're good people to talk to. It's going to take you a little longer. But it'll definitely be worth it.
Amy, I saw a question that came in on our Q&A, which is very timely and fits right here, which the question is, are you finding issues with staffing? And if so, how are you dealing with that? And I know I will emphatically say yes. It's very mixed out there. Some have fully staffed back up. Some have not. Some are just struggling with the labor shortage to re-engage and get get backed up. But you kind of gave a few tips there about trying things different times a day. But Amy, what are you seeing with staffing shortages and how to overcome it?
Yeah, luckily nobody's oversold, the dream to me yet, as far as, they're very upfront with if they can make the event happen or not. We've seen in some areas or some venues that we've had to pay maybe a higher cost for a private bartender, or come up with a unique way to serve something because we're not going to have a private server or bartender, whether that's we're at a brewery and we have to pre-pour 3 certain types of beer and label them and, have it available because they aren't able to have another person on staff. Or, if we set up we don't like to do drink tickets, but like a drink ticket type system, and they have to go up to a bar, or it depends on the venue. We've had to get creative with how we can make sure our people are taken care of if they thankfully come out and tell us that, hey, here's some potential red flags. We're not able to get fully staffed on your events.
Good. Well, let's see, to kind of wrap up this section, I think the actionable takeaway we would leave with everybody is don't be last to the party. If you wait until it's perfect timing, it's going to be too late. So now is the time to get started and thinking about what you want to do in Q1. And with that, Sebastian, I think we'll transition to the Q&A. And do you want to make the public service announcement here?
Absolutely. So yes, this is our Q&A section. So if you have a question to ask, please click the little button at the bottom of your screen that says Q&A and type in your question, please. And just a quick reminder, the best question will receive a $50 gift card. And the winner will receive, the winner will be announced after the presentations. So, and then we do have a quick promo.
Yeah, so while people are thinking and typing in their Q&A, here are 2 resources on Roadshows from our website that are just outstanding. One is a list of top 10 restaurants that work really well for doing local marketing events. So take a look at that. We've got a short link at the bottom of the screen. It'll also be in the slides, as well as top 10 unique venues that, that was a big trend in 2019. That'll come back in 22. So we want to share 2 resources. And with that, Sebastian, what's our first question?
Sure. So let me take a look at the questions here and pull this up. I know we just asked one question. Here's another one. What day of the week and time of event are most affected for these type of events?
Yeah, I don't know. Amy, I'll start and you can think, but we get that question a lot. I hear it more on the front end when we're designing the series or selling it or brainstorming it. And it feels like it's about a dead even split where some people think during the workday events, if that's like a noon lunch or a business meeting format works best. Others feel like after hours is a better format. As far as day of week, certainly most people think Monday through Thursday, definitely, obviously stay away from Friday. What do you see, Amy?
Yeah, I see different things as well for different types of events. I'd say Wednesday, Thursdays would be good if you're trying to do something after work, or maybe, like during a happy hour time where they can leave work early. And then I would say if you're doing something really cool and unique, you could probably get somebody on like Sunday night football. You could probably get somebody on a Saturday if they're driving exotic cars through the countryside. Saturdays and Sundays are tricky, obviously, because people are spending time with their families and that's their time. But if you do something really cool, you're probably going to pull people in. And then if you're doing a daytime lunch event, I would always avoid a Monday, because I feel like when I get back on a Monday, I've got, emails coming in. I kind of want to set the expectation for my week. And if I did like a Tuesday or Wednesday lunch event, then I would have a buffer on either side where I could still, be in office hours and get things done. So I think you really need to consider your event style, and then maybe plan based around that.
Amy, something we saw with after hours event that really drove attendance was allowing what we call a +1, where they can bring a guest. So that works really well.
Yeah, especially on those weekend events when like we had some clients do NFL games, and when they allowed a +1, it made it an event, that they were excited about a date night or getting to treat a friend and show them what they do. Or, we got good response from those type of events when you're asking for a little bit more of their personal time. It's a courtesy to allow them to bring somebody with them, and then they might feel more comfortable coming too. Some people might, a lot of my events, they're inviting customers and these customers don't know each other. And so if they're able to bring somebody with them, it's more likely that they might come.
Oh, good. We're at the end of our time, but Sebastian, how about one more question before we adjourn?
Sure. I have another one that has come in. What percentage of registrants will actually end up attending?
What do you think?
Yeah, you said 75 to 90 earlier. I'm going closer to the 75 to 80 mark, probably. Yeah. People, it's definitely, it's definitely worth having the event. People are coming in my world, what I've been doing. People are showing up and they're willing in the right markets to come. So it's a good, I'd say 80, 85% maybe even,
Yeah, and I'd say a lot of it depends on the type of event and the sense of obligation that people feel. If it's a pro sport event or a concert where they know you have a ticket, I'd say those get up in that 90% range. Absolutely. If it's a lunchtime event at a restaurant, where they know if their chair is empty, it's not going to be, a dramatic impact on things. I many times those will only be 50%. Yeah. What's really most important, and we work with our clients to set those expectations so they're not disappointed, and that if they want to have 20 people in the room, maybe they aim for 30 or 35 registrants. What we don't want them to see them do is to cut off registration at 20, expect 20, have 10, and be disappointed.
Correct.
So good. Well, let's see, Sebastian. With that, I think this is probably a good time to draw a line on our Q&A. And to summarize, kind of the points that we made today for everybody is that consumer events are definitely rebounding. Because of that, corporate marketing events are also rebounding. If consumers are ready to get out, they're ready to attend. And so we say start now, start small, start strategically. Make sure you allow for a little more elbow space, a little bit of social distancing. Consider people's personal comfort, personal flexibility, maybe even different types of seating options for them. And then just realize that we're in a phase where demand is exceeding supply. So don't wait till the last minute. Try to get started with plenty of lead time to get invitations out and have a successful event. So with that, Amy and I and Sebastian thank everybody that joined us today. We hope your local event marketing is a big success in 22, and that you get to catch your breath over the next 2 weeks during this Christmas holiday season, and lace up your tennis shoes, and let's all be ready to go in January. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks, y'all.